Hello and welcome to this episode of I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, where today I'm going to be talking about how we're only born with two fears.
So the big question is this: how are parents like us, who don't have a manual, who are doing the best we can, who feel as though we aren't enough, how are we going to raise healthy, happy children who we are proud of and still keep our sanity in that process? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Ryan Roy, and welcome to I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, a podcast for parents who are being real with themselves.
Hello and welcome back to this episode of I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, where today I'm going to be talking about we are born with only two fears. What do you mean there's only two fears, and how are we born with it, and how do they know? I don't know how they know, but if you do your research, and I've done it for you, so you don't really have to do that, right? I don't know jack about parenting so much that I go and I research this stuff. And the two fears that we are born with, or babies are born with, I guess all of us would be babies at some point, is the fear of falling, which is really strange, and maybe that has something to do with the fact, at least to me it's strange, that we are secure in the womb, right? We can't really fall from the womb. And then the other fear is loud noises. Every other fear that you have is learned and you can overcome. And you could even overcome the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling, right? So just know that. But as parents, what are you fearful of? And my question, the reason I pose that question to you is that I'm going to use an example. My wife, for whatever reason, has a very, and I know why, I'll tell you in a second, but I don't know where that fear comes from. She has a very, 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 and I imagine many women do, big fear of cockroaches. Like if there's a bug that resembles a cockroach, it could be a beetle, it could be whatever, but if she finds out it's a beetle, she's okay. But if it's a cockroach, for whatever reason, it just freaks her out. Now, I try to logically, being a logical person, if you guys listen to my podcast enough, I'm pretty logical when it comes to a lot of things. I'm like, but you're so much bigger than it. She's like, but they're gross. I'm like, but you're not going to touch it. And if it's like dead on the ground, there's no way she's going to pick it up with even like a rubber glove or something that she could dispose of or throw away, or a paper towel. She's like, you have to do it. I cannot do it. But guess what? My children at this point, they see a bug. The older son, my 9-year-old, there's a bug, because that's what mom does. He's learned the fear of this bug through his mother. Like, she has this tremendous fear. Therefore, I must be scared. So I was sharing with somebody just today how my mom, well, I'll go back. My little one, a couple days ago, we had a big thunderstorm as we had a hurricane come through this week up the East Coast, right? So if you're listening to this live, we had a hurricane come up the East Coast. I'm in Georgia, but a couple of the outer bands came through. And we had this really loud thunderstorm come through. Wasn't anything. It looked like a normal thunderstorm, but I knew because of the radar, it was the hurricane. And because of that, there was a lot of thunder going on, and it woke up my 3-year-old out of his nap, and he's crying, and he doesn't like the sound of thunder. And I was like, hey, Jaden, are you scared? And he's like, yes, Daddy, I'm scared. And I said, that's okay. And I'm holding him in my arms at this point, and he cried. He was okay, and I'm comforting him. And the next question I said, do you know that you're safe in Daddy's arms? And he said, yes. I said, okay. I said, do you know that Daddy will protect you? Yes. I said, are you still scared? And he answered, yes. Which is fine, because he's allowed to be scared of loud noises. But what I was sharing with somebody that I was speaking to today is I said, my mom had a lot of fears in her life. And I actually love thunderstorms and storms and things like this, because when I was a little kid and my mom had a fear of these things, she would say to me, she would overcome her own fear and say, Ryan, let's go watch the storm. Look how cool it is. Isn't it amazing how Mother Nature works? Isn't it amazing how the wind comes and the clouds form and the rain comes down, and that this natural evolution of life and the cycles of life? Isn't it fascinating? And when we moved to South Florida and hurricanes would come through, she would say, oh, wow, we get to have a hurricane party. And like, oh, we get to have a party? Like, what's that look like? She's like, let's go to the store and let's get all of our goodies and let's get all of the things that we want, because you know what? The storm's going to be so strong that we're going to have to get out the candles and we're going to have to get out flashlights because we may just lose electricity. And I was like, whoa, cool. We get to break out the flashlights. It's like, yeah, it'll be kind of scary and spooky because we may not have electricity. And she made it like sound like an adventure. Even though she may have been scared to death, she didn't want to put her fears of certain things onto me. And I think that's absolutely brilliant as a parent to be so self-aware that we don't want to put our shortcomings, our not so logical fears onto our own children. Let them develop their own fears through whatever experiences they have. To go back to the roaches or the palmetto bugs that my wife is so deathly afraid of. My mother-in-law stayed with me when my son was just less than a year old. She stayed with us to care for him as my wife and I worked. And she saw a bug one day and she freaked out. And I was like, oh, that's where my wife gets it. And then guess what? My sister-in-law was here not too long ago. And I had a fake bug and I like put that out there and she freaked out. I was like, oh yeah, that all came from mom, right? She instilled her fear of a bug that she's much bigger than into her children. What fears, parents, are you putting into your children? Because know that loud sounds, right? Thunder, I'm not really scared of thunder, and I personally am not scared of like loud noises. I mean, occasionally I'll get startled, but it's rare. But the fear of falling, right? And just so you know, most people don't have a fear of falling or heights, or they don't have a fear of heights, they have a fear of falling, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'm scared of heights. No, you're not. You're scared of falling. But that comes from birth. And we could overcome that with some logical and some safety things and understanding balance and equilibrium, whatever that looks like. We can overcome those, just like we could overcome any other fear. I'm going to end on this note. I do this in my coaching a lot. I don't know jack about parenting, but I know just a little bit about fear. And I'm going to pose this question to you, and I'm going to let you ponder it for a second or two, and it should be a quick answer for you. I'm going to ask you this question. Is fear based in the past? Is fear based in the present? Or is fear based in the future? Now, some of you are going to say past, like, hey, I'm scared of things because this happened to me, and therefore that fear is based in the past. Some of you will say, hey, it's something I'm feeling right now, and fear is based in the present, right? I have that feeling right now. But if you look at the pure definition, and the answer is fear is based in the future, by definition, fear is the anticipation of pain. So if we're anticipating something negative happening to us, that's in the future. So what's happening now internally is a projection of something happening in the future. And if it hasn't happened yet, does it really even exist anywhere but between our two ears and in our mind? And if we think of fear that way, what are we projecting into the future? The anticipation of some type of pain? What should we really be afraid of right now in this moment? We probably shouldn't be afraid of anything. And that way we should just take action. So overcome your own fears. Take more action in life so that your children don't have as many fears and that they take action. Because the only thing that stops us from doing in this thing we call life is the fear of a potential thing in the future. And we don't want our kids not doing things in fear of something negative happening to them. We want them to live their lives fear-free, relentless, pursuing with everything they have. Like, I don't know jack about parenting, but I wish that for my own children, knowing it won't happen, right? None of us are perfect. But if I could diminish that by not showing them my own fears, I think I will have partially done my job. Well, We'll see you in the next episode.
Do you want to be the dad you wish you had? If so, go get my free book, Be the Dad You Wish You Had, at BeTheDadYouWishYouHad.com. Inside, you'll find my most effective 40 tips to quickly and easily transform yourself into the ideal dad. Go to BeTheDadYouWishYouHad.com now and get it while it's free.